right here, right now, right here, right now, right here, right now, right here.
The Queen had a point, because once you've driven one of these, everything else does feel a bit If there's one era of motor racing that's etched into the mind more than any other, it's Group C. These monsters raced in grids of up to 29 out of a total field of 55 at speeds exceeding 250 miles an hour with downforce levels that literally cracked the driver's ribs. It became so popular and it was so exciting that the FIA effectively killed it off to save Formula One. And while the likes of Formula One and IndyCar were exciting, there was no greater test of man and machine than Le Mans. 24 hours of grueling racing where the cars and drivers put it all on the line to stay in one piece or just get to the end. The Group C era was born from a simple idea: efficiency racing. Fuel limits forced engineers to innovate. Teams had to balance speed, reliability and strategy, because the less time you spend in the pits, the longer you can keep the hammer down. That's what wins races, and it produced some of the most iconic cars in motorsport history. You can really take your pick of your favourite era of Porsche motorsport, from the 917, Steve McQueen's era, 911, the Class Warrior, GT1, absolutely stunning, or the 919 from modern times, hybrid with four-wheel drive. But the era where Porsche really dominated for 10 years was in Group C, the 956 and this 962. Utterly dominant, with a car that was elegant, ruthlessly efficient, extremely high performance and feared. It was the time when Porsche really cemented their brand as a sports car powerhouse. The wins just kept coming. 7 Le Mans 24-hour wins, 10 Daytona and Sebring wins, 4 IMSA World Championships and 5 World Drivers' Championships. Safe to say, Porsche were unbeatable. Their iconic Nobody's Perfect poster, that was no joke, relating to their almost complete top 10 lockout at the 1983 Le Mans. The 962 was an evolution of the 956 with better aero, better suspension, better everything. The car was stretched to meet IMSA safety regulations to compete in America, where the pedal box had to be behind the front axle. That was especially good news for taller drivers of my stature, the 956 being built around Jackie Ickx, who was knee-height to a grasshopper. Taller drivers like me and Derek Bell had red knees from rubbing them inside the tight cockpit. The longer wheelbase made the 962 a bit less nervous. Better cooling ducts helped the reliability and the performance of the engine. Upgraded ventilated steel discs reduced brake fade, enhanced wishbone suspension created better control under braking, therefore less locking. That was key in endurance racing, especially when you didn't have ABS. The Venturi tunnels were improved to make them less sensitive to bumps, creating more even and consistent level of downforce that was more relaxing for drivers without the rear jumping around at high speed. This car doesn't have skirts. Singer realised that the F1 way didn't work with a car this big, but he could use the broader bodywork to suck air in from the sides to feed the tunnels underneath the car and create this enormous Venturi effect via this gigantic diffuser at the rear of the car that punched the air through, creating triple the amount of downforce from the previous model 917. Downforce estimates for this car vary. For Le Mans in Le Mans trim, we got light aero, about 1,000 kilos. But on the twistier tracks, you could change the configuration for this car and produce 2 tons of downforce in a car that weighs less than 900 kilograms. So let those numbers sink in. Derek Bell famously said an idiot could drive one of these. So let's find out.
And the ball sounds straight, doing 241 miles an hour. I love this thing. It puts a smile on your face. It definitely starts to talk to you after a couple of laps. You get a bit more used to it. But you never take your eye off the ball. With a car like this, ultimately, you're responsible for everything that it does. And it is just a visceral drive. What's amazing actually though with this bubble roof The visibility is fantastic, and I've got really clear vision. Of course, that does get mired in the 24-hour race, in the rain, at night, when you get oil thrown over your windscreen because the mechanics overfilled the gearbox of the car in front of you, and you imagine a grid of 55 cars piling into that first corner. You're going to get covered in soot and detritus, which is very much what used to happen back then. At low speed, she does understeer a bit. That's because they sent these cars to be neutral. They'd be flown around the world to be turnkey customers. They'd unpack them and start racing them. And it was really down to those private teams to get to grips with the setup and handling of these cars and make them work. Ultimately, the Porsche factory team had the resources to really make the most of the performance of the 956 and 962, but it wasn't given to Porsche on a silver platter because the privateer teams really took the fight to Porsche. Brun Racing, who took their cars not just to race wins, but also won the World Sports Car Championship in 1986 with the sister car to this one. They absolutely meant business, and when Walter Brun was filling your mirrors with this bright Repsol livery, you knew he meant business. He was not there to fluff the factory drivers. Second gear, across the line, here we go. Up to turn 1, to third, to fourth. Bit of brake before the crest, that's 7,800, I've got an 8,000 limit set by my friend and engineer who's running this car today. Let's behave. Up to third again, Chicago on the brakes quite hard, not to lock up the wheel. Let's really crank the nose in and try and keep the spool on those turbos. Nicely in the power band. Blasting down towards Hammerhead, up to fourth gear. Brake quite late. Heeling and towing. She's good change of direction, but I'm going to get some understeer. Slow it right down. There we go, nice early throttle, the short shift to third, you hear that pop off on the turbo, up to fourth again for the follow through. Do I have a car in the way? Let's hope not. Building the speed, building the speed. She's flat through here, coming up to the last corner. Braking and steering. Try and carry a little bit of speed in, here we go. Oh, love it, love it, love it, love it. It's not really built for excessive chicanes, and if you took a poll of Le Mans drivers, pretty sure they'd be almost unanimous in saying, get rid of the chicanes, just put the Mulsanne kings back in and let's have at it. That's where this car really starts to talk to you, is in the high speed. It wants to be slippery in a straight line and unbelievably powerful in the fast corners where the aero kicks in. You just imagine this flinging it into Indianapolis. Barely coming off the power, just tap the brake, turn her in and send it through at 180 miles an hour.
What makes this 962 even more unique is its total originality, a standing survivor of a time where cars had more new parts than Trigger's broom. Driven by Walter Brun and Jesus Pareja in just 2 races, Mexico City and Montreal, this pristine relic has escaped the ravages of repeated racing, crashes and rebuilds. This is as close as you're going to get to one careful owner, never raced or ragged, no tyre kickers please, I know what I've got.
I hope that's not the bill.
Max rev 7880.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
There's more in it then.
And this car, you could take it racing, you could put it in your collection, you could do what you like with it. It's original and functional. And really, modern races where you can enter these cars only last 2 hours with a gentleman driver at the helm. That's barely waking up a car like this, designed to be thrashed for 24 hours. The fact that it's never done that means this car is just all the stronger and better maintained for it. And I get this privilege, this honour to drive really precisely what this car was in the 80s. It's been preserved in a time capsule. And it's no wonder this series was so popular that the FIA actually had to basically kill it off to protect Formula One, because this thing had it all. This series was just so colourful, so varied, so innovative. Fantastic formula it was. What an amazing, amazing experience to step back in time with this bad boy. And thank you to the owner for this rare privilege to be able to not just move around, but actually drive it the way it intended to be driven.
Group C was in motion on wheels, the last pre-digital battlefield where you could still see the drivers working the wheel, the roar of the engines, the smell of the fuel, the sweat, the adrenaline, and the fear. Mechanics performed miracles, drivers performed unbelievable acts of bravery. The 962 was the icon of that era, and this particular car, chassis 962-163, isn't just a racing car or a piece of art, it's a survivor, a pristine relic, and a reminder of a time when endurance racing really was a battle of the titans, not just a game of algorithms.